Welcome to Off the Page, the show where we talk with Colorado authors to get the story behind the story. I'm Stacy McKenzie, a librarian here at Mamie Doud, Eisenhower Public Library in Broomfield. And today we're talking with author Lisa Shultz. We've got 3 of her books we're going to focus on, and I'm so happy to have you here with me. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
One question I always like to ask authors to get started is, what are you doing when you're not writing books?
Well, I love to write, but I do take a break and I speak about my books to groups, put on workshops, do some coaching around the topic as well. I've become an athlete of the mind.
Have you always been an author? Did you have any other sort of career that you did before that?
Actually, my author days are very recent. I really began in 2010. And before that, I was a physical therapist, a mom, and various other things. But I really started to become focused on my writing just as recently as 2010.
Okay, great. And that's a great thing to hear. We have a lot of aspiring authors out there. Let's jump into talking about your latest book, Becoming an Athlete of the Mind. Such an intriguing title. Tell me about it.
We have so much untapped power in our minds and our thoughts. And we're all familiar with the benefits of physical exercise, going to the gym, cardiovascular fitness, weightlifting, strengthening, conditioning, weight control, all of those wonderful things that we're familiar with, but many times people are not utilizing the power of our minds and actually training our minds in a similar way that we would in the gym for our physical fitness. So I wanted to do more with helping people understand how much they could achieve in their life if they did train their mind.
Oh, that's so important. Well, you actually have a whole program lined out. It's not just talking about doing it. It has a program with a time limit and all that. Tell me about the whole structure.
Yes. Well, everyone is so busy. We all have very full lives. And so I wanted to do a reasonable and sustainable amount of time that you spent focusing on your mind exercises. So I chose 20 minutes. And I actually broke that 20 minutes up into 4 5-minute segments. And when you're doing the program, which I suggest for a 90-day focus, you can do that 20-minute segment in the morning, say, before you get going with your day, but you can also break those 5-minute segments up and sneak them in whenever you can throughout the day, if that works better for your schedule.
Why 90 days?
It really establishes a habit in your life. I find that if you do something for just a short period of time, you also expect results immediately. But just like with physical exercise programs, it takes a while to get into good shape, and you have to give yourself time to see the results. And so a 90-day period is really it's long enough to really start to see some changes in your life. And so I encourage people to dedicate themselves to a full 90 days when they begin.
That makes sense, just like a regular training program.
Right.
Tell us about one of the exercises we might want to do to make our mind an athlete.
Well, there's actually 2 that are my favorite that I'll just bring up because they're very effective and they're both very powerful. And one is using affirmations. Deciding what our particular goals are in our life right now. It could be career-based, relationship, perhaps a dream vacation, around money, anything you can imagine that's important into your life now. You can do some positive affirmations that you repeat every day and really sink those affirmations deep inside of you, as well as just the repetition of reminding yourself the importance of those goals for you right now. And so I suggest writing down affirmations, repeating them every day, multiple times during the day, especially first thing in the morning and the last thing you do before you go to sleep as well. That's a big one. And also visualization is very powerful. Whether that's just getting comfortable in a chair, closing your eyes and visualizing in vivid detail the end result of your dream come true, or creating a vision board or a dream board where you actually cut out pictures of images that represent what you'd like in your life and look at those images and let them swirl around in your imagination in vivid detail. That can be very powerful as well.
It sounds kind of fun too.
It is very fun.
Kind of takes you away from things.
Yes.
You mentioned you did physical therapy.
Yes.
Did anything in your physical therapy career lead you to write this book?
Absolutely. It was quite a bit of the foundation of it, because I was used to designing rehabilitation and conditioning programs for my patients. And so I was already in the mode of creating home programs for people to do on their own through physical therapy. And then I combined that with my own dedicated athletic endeavors. I've always been an athlete and enjoyed exercise, and I brought that all together. And I also studied a great number of people who had written about the topic of mind power and the positive thoughts and how to tap into all of that to achieve your goals. And I combined that all together to bring the book out.
There's just so much about training and physical health and nutrition, and in our society, why don't we have more emphasis on getting our minds right?
That's a really good question, and you know, I just think it's a missing element from so much of the education out there, and we're missing so much of the key to success when we don't have a consistent program, a way, a strategy, a plan to really focus our thoughts and keep them positive. And so I feel like there was a gap. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, is I wanted to help bring more people to success in whatever they desire, whatever their particular unique objectives are. I wanted to help them make them a reality.
Well, I'm very excited about it. Who do you think would be one of the best audiences for this book? You mentioned physical therapy patients it could help. What are some other people it might be good for?
Really, I think you can use it in any part of your life, but I think specifically those who maybe feel frustrated right now, maybe they aren't achieving a really important thing to them. Maybe they desperately want a new relationship or a better job, or they want to have a new home. Whatever their situation is, if they feel like they're just falling short or they're stuck in a rut and they just can't quite grasp what that dream is for them, they're the perfect person that might benefit from the book. They want it, they know what they'd like, they have a dream, but they just need a little help and support to make it a reality.
It's sort of like being hungry for something, but you're not sure what. It's kind of what it sounds like in a way. You talk a lot about negative thoughts and turning those into positive thoughts. Throughout the day, people have negative thoughts. People beat themselves up, low self-esteem. What are some ways we could turn that into a positive thought for us?
Well, we are bombarded by a lot of negative things in the world, whether it's through media or just a stressful job situation. We often bombarded by negative worries, concerns, complaints. So I like to think of the mind as a garden. And you really have to focus on sowing positive seeds, positive thoughts in your mind. And if you see some weeds, those negative thoughts, pluck them. Take them out, stop, catch yourself. If you're feeling like you're about to say something that's not quite positive, or it's not really taking you in the direction that you know you'd like to go, just take a break, stop yourself, pull that weed out, start over, rephrase, and you just have to practice that over and over. And every day we have an opportunity, and we have a choice with every event that occurs to us, and every day of how we react to that. And so I just encourage people to always think of sowing positive seeds in how they react to events and circumstances in their lives.
I love that analogy of it being a garden and plucking the weeds out. It's a good time to be thinking about that too. What effects can we expect from this? How do we know if it's working? What effects can we expect to see?
It's a wonderful question. It's really magic. Oftentimes, well, what I see happening for myself and for others that I've worked with on this is that things become effortless. There's a flow that comes to your life. Things start to drop into place more easily. You get over challenges more quickly, or someone is there to support you when you need help, and things just start to come together. The right people, events, and circumstances just plop into your lap, that are in alignment with what you're focusing on with your mind training, and you just like, wow, how did that happen? But you know how it happened because you've been focusing. You've been really training your mind and really zeroing in and getting focused on what you want consistently every day. So it starts to be really fun when you start to see things just happening that hadn't been before. So that's a lot of the way you can see if it's working for you. And I also find that you just feel grounded and at more peace when you're getting your mind from being scattered and unfocused.
That sounds great. In just 90 days,
Yes.
you kind of feel that way.
Yes.
Okay, Lisa, I'm an animal lover, and so I'm really excited to talk about your next book, Sally's Journey. Tell me about Sally's Journey.
Sally was a beloved dog that I had for 14 years of my life in the 90s and early 2000s. And she was with me through a lot of changes and big events in my life, but she also had a very interesting life of her own as well.
Well, a lot of people have dogs. Why did Sally deserve a book about her?
You know, she was just there for me through the thick and thin, unconditional love at every moment of my life. And I just wanted to honor that and that legacy of how important she was in my life, sort of the mainstay. She was always there, even when others disappeared and I felt, you know, I was in difficult circumstances. And I decided to actually write the book from her eyes, which was really fun because talking about some difficult circumstances and events that occurred, if I put them from her perspective, it was softer because she comes from unconditional love. And it was really actually a very healing journey for me to write the book and to see the events from her perspective. So it was just a book of love, and I just wanted to remember her and honor her in my life.
And you call the book a novel, but based on true events.
Yes.
So it's a novel because it's from the dog's perspective, is that right? But the stories are true?
It is from the dog's perspective, but I also had to bring in some of my imagination for times when she was not physically with me. And so before I got her, for example, I got her when she was 7 months old. So I sort of used my imagination and created her first 7 months and periods of time where she was separated from me. I continued to share her story and just added a few elements to fill it in.
How fun. Tell us a story about Sally from her journey.
Well, it was really interesting. One time I believe she was actually kidnapped from our yard. And I pieced things together over time after we found her. But she disappeared. We had a yard, and I suspect that some young boys took her away one night when she was out in the yard. And we did find her the next day after a lot of looking. But I actually heard a few months later these boys chatting while talking to her. I was gardening in my yard and I overheard their conversation, and they referenced spending a night with her. And I said, wow, I think I may have figured out what happened to her when she disappeared. And then I, again, used my imagination of what actually happened in their presence.
And she tells us about her adventure.
Exactly.
How fun. Okay, Lisa, serious question. Am I going to cry when I read this book?
I have been told that many people have cried, but she does pass away, but I tried to cushion that, and I put a little hope and peacefulness in her ending that I'm hoping will make that a little easier.
Okay. that was a good answer. Lisa, when people read Sally's journey and read about Sally, what's one message that you would really like them to walk away with?
It's really just about love and unconditional love, and we have that choice too. We can just choose to love even under difficult circumstances and events, and so that's really the message behind it is, and what I think of when I think of her is love.
Yeah. Yeah, doggies are that way, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, we have a lot of aspiring writers who watch the show, and so I wanted to talk about another one of your books You were just writing all of the time, I think. And that is how to bring your book to life this year. And it's quite motivating. A lot of books are manuals for how to write it, but yours is quite motivating. Tell me why this book is different from other how to write your books.
Well, what happened was I mentioned earlier that I started writing in 2010. And I put together a book that, with my business partner, we co-created an anthology. And we launched it, published it, and it became very successful as our first attempt to do that, to self-publish. And it became an Amazon bestseller, and a lot of people noticed and observed that, and they said, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And I have a book I'd like to write. I have a book inside. And they started to people started to call my business partner and I and ask us questions about the process that we did to get our book out and to have it be a success when it was our first. And so we realized that there was really a lot of people out there that needed guidance and support and encouragement, that it's actually a very doable process, that it's not as difficult as people seem to think it is. And we put all of our experience all the way through the writing stage, the actual publication stage, the launch, the formal launch, and the marketing piece, and then what do you do after that? And we put everything that we had gone through, all the things we learned, and placed it there so that someone could go through that by themselves if they wished to just go through the process successfully and without as much difficulty as they might think.
How helpful and useful and encouraging. Lisa, what are some of the biggest reasons why people don't get their books finished?
Well, I think it swings around to they perceive it to be very difficult, that they don't know, and the unknown scares them, and they feel that, you know, they hear about the rejections and how difficult it is and so forth and so on. But with self-publishing being so well received in today's world, you can bring your own creation out, and there's so much support. For one thing, part of the battle is just writing the book, sitting down and taking time out of your busy life and getting the work out onto paper. But there's plenty of people out there to support you. Even if you're not an exceptionally good writer, there are exceptionally good editors that can help polish and make it really a wonderful piece to be ready to present to the world.
Wonderful advice. If you could only give one tip of all of your experience and all of your writing experience, if you could only give one tip to an aspiring writer, what would you tell them?
Get it out as quickly as you can. Get it out of your head, get it out of your heart, and get it onto paper. You can dictate it, you can type it, you can write it, you can have somebody transcribe it, but get the words out as quickly as possible without editing them. Just get them out, and then you're ready to go with help and support with editing and so forth.
Okay, Lisa, let's say you could give the writer one more hint. The second most important piece of advice. What would you tell somebody?
Have support. There are some fabulous writing groups out there that meet, say, on a monthly basis, and they all talk about the books they're writing. They set goals. They check in with each other. You can also hire a coach or have a writing buddy. Just having someone going through the process, knowing that you're going through it and being accountable to them and sharing the journey.
Where do people find writing groups?
Oh, online. You can Google that in your local community. There's things on Facebook and so forth. There's plenty of writing groups and book groups out there ready to support the aspiring writer.
Okay, good. So no excuse for not finding one and getting that book you've been sitting on out there for a while.
Right.
Okay, I need to take that advice myself, I think. Now, Lisa, I'm excited that you've got a new project that's kind of close to you. Tell me what your new project is.
It's about graduation advice. I have 2 college-age daughters, and I wanted to share with them in a fun way, in a book form, advice, tips, nuggets of wisdom, things I wished I'd either known when I graduated or things that I've learned along the way the hard way that I'd love for them to know early and perhaps avoid some of those mistakes, or just those things that I want them to remember that I've hopefully taught them and ingrained in them along the way. And I wanted to put it into a fun gift book.
Oh, great. It's always hard to figure out what to get for graduates.
Exactly.
So that's terrific. How confident are you that they will read that book and listen to every single point of it?
Well, I've made it short, which is easier to read. They're short snippets, little nuggets of wisdom. So it's not a daunting book, and they can just pick it up here and there and read it and review. And it's also broken into certain sections like money and health and relationships. And so they can pull out certain sections that perhaps they're interested in right now in their lives. And I've also, hopefully, to entice them to continue to look at the book, at the end of the book I have sort of a bucket list area where they can fill in some of their goals and dreams and create a bucket list and then check them off as they do them in their lives. So I'm hoping that that will keep some longevity on the book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Different. Good idea. Now, you have a website. What can people find when they visit your website?
Well, I have a blog where I share whatever's on my mind, or tips or inspiration. I, of course, have information about my books and the coaching that I do around the books and upcoming events and so forth.
If people would like you to come speak to their group, is that an available option?
Absolutely. I love to speak. I love to share the message. And I would be happy. I also give workshops.
Oh, great. Is there a particular group that you speak to?
You know, it's really varied. Sometimes there are service organizations, networking groups, book clubs. Anyone who would really like to take their life to the next level, they, you know, are striving for something in their lives, or just love the topic of mind power and the power of your thoughts.
It is a powerful thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's untapped, I think, in a lot of ways, and so it always fascinates me when I read about it. Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on the show and sharing your library of books that you've written for us. I really appreciate you coming today.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank Lisa Shultz for being on the show today, and check your local library for all of her books, and join us next time for more on Off the Page.